live and pre-recorded. This is the Red Ticket Blues podcast. I am Brian Buckley. This is being recorded on January 11th to hit the internets on January 12th. You can always listen to the show on iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, YouTube, and follow me on Twitter at BrianBuck13 and at Red Ticket Blues. So today's a special episode. We have our friend of the podcast, Jared, also known as WFAN Trades, and we discuss the wild card weekend involving all the teams and whatnot. And we discussed just going through them, previewing next week. So enough's enough. Let's just get to it. Bleh. Okay, folks, he wanted it. He by personal request, Jared, at WFAN Trades on Twitter. Jared, how you doing?
Good. How are you, sir? How's everything?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for joining us. He wanted the music bed. It's going to be a top 40 hit soon. I mean, it's got that jingle that you really want to play in your cars, bumping around. I get it. So you want to be introduced with that. It makes complete sense. So Jared's here today. We're going to talk about the wild card weekend. And last time Jared was with us, the Jets were flying high, like the Jets do. But like the Jets, we have to move forward without them in the playoffs like we usually do every year. You okay? Have you gotten past the whole Jets heartbreaker at Week 17?
I am. I'm a Giants fan.
Oh, Jesus. Are you serious?
I am. It's okay. I don't hate the
Forget
Jets.
the podcast. It's over.
Sorry. Did I mislead you?
For some reason, I thought you were a Jets fan. Okay. All right.
No, I'll tell you why. It's because I'm a Mets fan.
That's my
right? So it's usually the two, but I go against the grain, and I'm a Mets Giants fan, but whatever. I still know stuff about football. No.
You see, now, how about this? This is a Giants fan's worst nightmare, saying that you're a Giants fan. I mean, you got Tom Coughlin interviewing with the Eagles, and Mike Smith interviewing with the Giants.
Oh,
he probably called a timeout in the middle of in the interview and didn't know what he was doing.
He's gonna get on with Mike on his weekly spot and talk about his stupid book that nobody bought. Oh my God! Actually, Coughlin I saw before is interviewing with the Niners too.
Yeah.
So a 70-year-old man is in high demand apparently. But who knew?
That's pretty impressive. You think about it, that many teams are interested. All right, but let's start with the games here. The first game, we'll start in order. Why not? You have probably the most, well, not probably, definitely the most lopsided game of the week, which was Kansas City versus Houston. I expected a little more out of Houston. I think the point spread was, I think they were underdogs by 5, Houston. For whatever, all intents and purposes, I decided I'd take Houston in that game, but it was bad. I think we all knew Brian Hoyer was bad, but did you have any idea he was this bad?
No. I mean, he looked incapable of playing quarterback in the NFL. But then again, the Texans, from the day they've been on Hard Knocks, in the preseason, they Bill O'Brien, we're going to let the two guys, Mallett at the time and Hoyer battle it out. It's just like he's just picking between two shit quarterbacks. It's not like he's deciding, between, superstars, or like you just pick one, and then he just flip-flopped 100 times throughout the season. But, 0 touchdowns and 4 interceptions is usually not going to result in a win. So
think about it.
Yeah.
Brian Hoyer was only there starting in that playoff game because Ryan Mallett missed a flight. That's it. He could easily have been on the bench, or even cut at that point. Maybe they would have brought in Brandon Weeden and gotten rid of Brian Hoyer. But Brian Hoyer, I'm surprised he stayed in the game with how bad that first half was.
Yeah, and you hate to, I don't know, over dramatize a point, but
no, go ahead, do it.
Yeah, but it's what I do best. When Kansas City returned the opening kick, did you go like, oh God, this could be bad? It was. I didn't want to say it was over on an opening kick because that'd be incredibly stupid to say, but they returned the kick and you're like, oh, just the air was just taken out of that.
And
place.
Nobody even touched him. It was like,
no, it wasn't even close.
They just opened it up at like the 20-yard line, and then he just waltzed there. It was terrible. You heard Francesa going nuts about it. I don't know if you did, about the whole J.J. Watt.
The J.J. Watt. Listen, like we always say, when you think Mike is going to zig, he zags. I mean, jumping on J.J. Watt was an interesting angle, but I don't know. That means Mike probably bet that. Did he pick them? I don't even know.
I forget. But yeah. he must. You're right though. I mean, listen, I'll agree with him that it was ridiculous. It's a team that has lots of difficulty scoring, and they're on the goal line, and they decide to go with J.J. Watt. Like, if anyone new listening to the podcast, I think J.J. Watt, the player, is great. J.J. Watt, the show, it's a little tough for me to take. It's so phony. The spraying of the water in the face, the mean face on all the time. And then to do an about-face at commercial where he's sitting in like a gymnasium at a high school dance. It's like you're either hardcore or you're a pansy. Pick one.
Right. And it's funny because he doesn't need – he's so good.
Yeah.
Like you said. To say he's good would be an understatement. He doesn't need to do all – like you would expect somebody like Brian Cushing to do that. Exactly. He's mediocre. But I mean, like J.J. Watt's like the superstar guy. Like I don't know. It seems like he overplays it a little bit. But the fact that they called that play at the goal line was just, oh my God. Like, I don't know. But, so that was basically the AFC South in a nutshell right there.
Yeah, I mean, that was the best they could offer. That was the best they could offer. Kansas City, now they've won 11 games in a row, and honestly, I kind of started to zone out of this game. I don't know how anyone could really stay riveted on the edge of their seat with it. I guess the only real glaring thing with the Chiefs is, yes, they continue, they go forward, but you have a high ankle sprain to Jeremy Maclin going forward in a date with the Patriots.
And that's going to be a big problem for them. But I don't know. I mean, like you said, this game was it was the perfect, like, 4 o'clock or 4:30? It was a perfect 4:30 Saturday game. It's like, everybody was kind of doing something else.
Exactly.
And before you know it, it was 30-0. The turnovers, 5 turnovers versus 1. I mean, and the problem is we'll get to this when we get to the Patriot game, but it's like, oh shit, like how good are the Chiefs? Like, oh God, like do you just say that because they just beat up what amounts to a AAA team, or is it like, I don't know. That's something to discuss, I guess, further down the line. Or listen, they've won a lot of games in a row. That's not, that's not a mistake, but it's also Andy Reid. So, I mean,
that's true. You were waiting for him to do something stupid in the playoffs, but in a 30-0 game, he's going to be okay. Even if he makes an error, he's going to have a little wiggle room for it. Yeah, I mean, right. Like I said, I started to zone out with this game. It's 30-0. What can you do? Mm-hmm. It's like, but like you said, I think they scheduled it perfectly. It's like people are still sort of doing stuff on a Saturday evening. It's like, what am I may go out, may stay in. I'm doing some errands. Right. No one gave a shit.
Right.
So
no one cares.
But I think the next game here, I think, you know what? Do you want to go over we'll go over the predictions for next week after we go over all the games here. Now this next game, it was almost like, when you think about it, for me, I'll say the first and the last games of the weekends were kind of the ones I started to zone out with. The ones in the middle were the good ones. And I think this one on Saturday night, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, what can you say about it? Tell me tell me your thoughts on this game, Jared.
It was kind of like what you expected it, a typical, division rival type, chippiness, and they showed the refs in the beginning of the games at midfield, and they wanted to kick each other's ass before the game and all that kind of stuff. I just, super fast forwarding to the end. I mean, there was so much shit that happened. So, somebody posted on, I think it was on Twitter, like 8 things that happened, like what the fuck, at the end of the game. Like the Hill's fumble, Burfict, intercepting it and then like running to the tunnel. And, there was so much, and then obviously the PacMan Jones and all that kind of stuff. It was a crazy, crazy game, and Pittsburgh won and didn't cover the 3. So, I mean, there was that, aspect of it too, if you were, interested in that. But, it was such a, witching hour type game, I guess, if you will. The back and forth, the twists and turns, and when the game was over, it was just like, whoa.
It was almost like a little bink, and then boom, right? I mean, if you really want to look at it from that perspective. You mentioned Burfict intercepting the ball and sort of running off the field as if it were like Rucker Park or something. And I forget who the announcer was. I don't know if it was Sims or Nance. It was just like, Burfict makes the interception and he's running off the field. I don't really know what's going on there. But before I forget, I wrote something today on Red Ticket Blues about how ridiculous Jim Nance was in that game as he fawned all over Ben Roethlisberger.
Mhm.
Ben Roethlisberger, a guy who, listen, I'm not going to get into, well, there were accusations, but I'm not going to say what I really think because it won't sound good. But let's just put it this way: not the nicest guy in the world, and Jim, a man who only roots for the classiest, for the best, was just, I don't know, it was sickening. I don't know, am I crazy? Did you pick up on this too?
Well, I did a little bit, but I look at it in the prism of Jim Nantz and the Peyton Manning, and it's so much less than Peyton Manning. I'm like, it wasn't that bad. You know what I mean? If on a Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Patriots love fest, Roethlisberger is a step down, but of course, he picked up on that. He loves. I think he was playing at the heroic angle. You know what I mean? Of him going out, Landry Jones came in.
When Big Ben came back, the pride. He was like a proud father whose kid just hit a game-winning shot. He's like, look who's coming back in. He was so happy. But you're right though. I posted on Twitter and somebody said the exact same thing to me. He goes, listen, it only sounded that way because Peyton and Brady had the week off. So that's why the roses seem like they were larger and more frequently being thrown at Roethlisberger.
Right.
The end of the game. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say the sideline reporter, and I'm forgetting her name right now. I can picture exactly what she looks like. The lady who reported on Roethlisberger is out. What was it? Sorry.
Was it Wolfson? Tracy Wolfson?
Oh, Tracy Wolfson. Yeah, Tracy. That's right. She goes, and here he comes, and then literally 1 second later, Landry Jones comes out. Oh God! You literally have one job. This on the sideline, and he's coming right out. And it couldn't have been a tenth of a second later. Roethlisberger's still standing on the sideline. I'm like, what's going on? Am I going back in, or and lost in a fog almost?
It's classic too. And it happens every game with CBS, and it's just the whole. Mike Carey has become such a joke at this point that Nance and Sims have to set him up with the right answer. So after something happens, they go, "That looked like an interception, didn't it, Mike?" And he'll just say, and you'll just hear a loud mixture of garbled whatever, and then he'll just come on and go, "Yep, this interception." It's just all unorganized.
I think what they Pereira was obviously on Fox, and now they've brought Pereira into the booth, and they tried to duplicate that with Mike Carey, and it's been, I think last year was maybe his first year.
Yeah.
It's a disaster. He has no concept it's not smooth interaction. Everything's, it's like he's still announcing it, in the stadium. There's no smooth interaction like there is with Pereira. They kind of play off of each other, interpret the rules. I honestly think watching a game sometimes I'm like, how the fuck was he involved in the NFL?
He made the decisions.
He made the decisions, right? I see what they're trying to do. You would guess at some point they would probably try to end this because they just get ridiculed.
Yeah. I could picture him sitting in the booth or whatever, his separate booth, still in the referee uniform, making the calls and then relaying them to Nance and Sims. But yeah, go ahead.
So we fast forward obviously to the end of the game, and it was so much stuff happened. If you want to look at it from a neutral perspective, I was talking to Joey Porter went out there. It came out today. I think he made a comment something like, "I'm not in their heads yet, but I will be in their heads." He knew exactly what he was
100%.
doing. And of course, the Bengals are stupid enough to play it right into it. And God forbid, PacMan Jones walks away, instead of trying to confront Joey Porter, walking off the field. But, I think Mike made the point the other day. I don't know how you feel about this, but that shouldn't have been a penalty with the Joey Porter situation. Yes,
no,
tried to take off Antonio Brown's head. I don't think that should have been a penalty. Boy, I mean,
I think the Adam Jones thing was borderline if it should have been a penalty. I don't think there was any real malice when he went after the ref. It was sort of just like, I'm gonna bring the Pac-Man back in me and try to just go head up with Joey Porter, a coach in the middle of the field. He should have been flagged as well. That's not talked about. The Burfict thing, and I just wanted to say this because I'm sure no one else was saying it. Burfict, not perfect, huh? How about that?
Yeah,
I'm here all night.
Look at this guy.
That guy is an asshole. He he even after the game would take no credit. Excuse me, he didn't want to take any blame for what he did. And this is a guy who continues to make just asinine decisions. But just going back to Adam Jones before I forget, he was on Dan Patrick today and said that the hit on Antonio Brown it didn't hurt him at all. He was acting and he deserved an Oscar. And after the game,
wait, can I correct you on something
before
you go any further? He didn't say Oscar. He said Grammy.
Yeah, you're right. PacMan Jones, ladies and gentlemen.
How about that?
But that's not the most embarrassing thing he did this weekend. Did you see on Instagram this after the game?
Yes.
He straight up went like the Tupac hit him up style, where he's motherfucking this, and you want to come up with this, you motherfucker, this bitch ass doesn't belong. I mean, it's just, and then of all leaders, Deion Sanders tells him to remove the Instagram post, and Adam Jones does, PacMan Jones. But that is a very good point out of you. A Grammy he deserves.
Yeah.
So
in my notes over here about the game, I wrote Deion defended with an exclamation point. So. I never watch the NFL Network. I do, for preview purposes.
Right.
Like post game, it's the last thing I'll turn on. Once I'm done with the football game, I'm done with it. But I turned on. Some people on Twitter were kind of talking about Deion, and I put it on. I think it was. Oh God, I'm now drawing a blank on who it was. It was one of the. It was LaDainian Tomlinson.
Okay.
They were talking about defenders hitting, and I mean Deion was all 100%. Burfict didn't try to lay him out, basically.
Yeah,
and then, they kept showing the replay, and I don't know. They got into a whole argument about how you can hit somebody and how you can't hit somebody, and I don't know. I mean, it looked malicious. I think the look on Marvin Lewis's face was, what the fuck did you do? Not, we just got robbed. You know what I mean? He was certainly pissed about the PacMan situation and Joey Porter. That's fine, but from body language looks, it never looked like he looked like, what the fuck, we just got robbed because that was a bad call. It was almost like, how in God's name can you do that?
Yeah, whether he wanted to do whatever he did, I mean, you can take it any way you want, but how fucking stupid can you be to make a play like that with that little time left in a playoff game? I mean, that's the main thing. I understand these guys can't turn it on and turn it off immediately in the middle of a game, but Christ almighty, just... it's not a good look.
No, it's not, and it's funny. The other day I was reading an article in one of the Cincinnati papers about, essentially they blew this game and yada yada. And he made the point, like, the Bengals have these guys that Burfict wasn't drafted because of behavioral issues. I mean, that's like, and PacMan Jones, his situation is totally separate and obviously known, but these guys are super, super talented, but there's always a but. And in a situation like that, it just comes out and it blows up in their face. And from what it sounds like, Brown is not going to fire Marvin Lewis. Yeah. So I think you'd rather keep losing for another 7 years than try to blow up. They're not like the Browns, where they try to blow up the system every couple of years and start over. So they'll survive. Like this.
What was I going to say? Damn it, I forgot. But I wanted to...
You want PacMan Jones out of the league? You want him out of the league?
Kick him out of the league! Get rid of him! I think with experience watching teams as long as I have, and I've been watching for a very long time, okay, you can get by with one of these idiots. When you have a team full of idiots, talented idiots, you're never going to prosper. You can always have that one idiot who's good enough. He makes the right plays. He's going to screw up once in a while, but you know what? The players around him, the veteran players, they can come around and just say, you know what? The greater good will prosper. But the one thing I want to say is A.J. McCarron really sounded like, I don't know, for lack of a better term, a bitch after the game. He was complaining about the rain. He said that, every time we got the ball, it seemed like it was raining, and every time Pittsburgh got the ball, there was no rain. Are you shut up? Does it rain in Alabama? I can't believe he made those statements. It almost made me think as if there was some sort of a cloud, like a Charlie Brown, following him or something. I don't know if you heard those statements, but that's just ridiculous.
I read it, or I read it, I heard about it. I didn't even know it was serious. Like, I thought he was, like, joking with the reporter.
No, it was serious.
I hope he wasn't serious. Oh, well,
I'm not saying he said that that's the reason we lost, but he definitely.
But even for that to be on your mind,
yeah,
is disturbing. And you're Jesus. I mean, I don't know. They better hope Andy Dalton gets back pretty quickly. I mean, next year.
No, it's snowing out. It's rain. It's too hot. It's too cold. Like the three.
And you feel bad
bears.
for Hill too.
Yeah.
Jeremy Hill, like after the game, is like, oh my god, blew it, and I love these fans. I mean, it was. You feel bad for the guy. I didn't have any skin in the game, I guess. I mean, it was, but he sounded just like, oh god, like I can't believe that.
There are a few guys like that. AJ Green too was just sort of in shock, still in his pads, like in the locker room, just like, I can't believe we lost this game. Like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
So. Moving on to the game Sunday between Seattle Seahawks and Minnesota in a very cold. Did you know it was cold there?
It looked cold.
Yeah,
it looked cold.
I heard that too. The thermometers said it was cold, so I'm gonna take their word for it. It was very cold.
Yeah, it looked cold,
and it looked like obviously the cold had something to do with the lack of offense. 3-0 at halftime, Minnesota, and. I don't know. I think Teddy Bridgewater played a decent game. I think Al Michaels said, quarterbacks hate having this term pegged with them, but he is a good game manager. He did a good job. They just couldn't really move the ball that well. But I think, the Seahawks sort of woke up with that one big play involving Russell Wilson.
Yeah. I have absolutely nothing to add until we get to the last the kick. It was as bad as it wasn't a bad game. Don't get me wrong. Right. It was just, there was nothing, like you said, there was a couple big plays. It looked so cold that everybody just looked like they'd rather be somewhere else. Not the fans. I mean, they were just, they were going crazy, but it was just so fucking cold. The ref looked cold. I mean, but once you get to the kick, I guess we'll call it, it's funny. I saw a video the other day. So, what was the holder's name? Locke? Jeff Locke?
I forget.
So he was the holder. So Blair Walsh posted a Twitter video, maybe during training camp, like late August, something like that. And there was something to the effect of, our new kicker loves to hold. It was like, him and, it was like almost like a Vine video, him in like the locker room, him on the field, him on the parking lot. Every one of the videos, the guy's holding the laces like, in. I don't know if I was the only one who noticed this. I know he was doing it for the camera. It wasn't a game situation. But then when in the playoffs over here, he's holding the laces in. Now, is that listen, it's up to Blair Walsh, not up to the holder. Does Blair Walsh like the laces in? I have a hard time believing that, right?
So
You've never heard
I've never
say
heard
that. I don't know. You just, how do you shank a 27-year-old field goal?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, if the laces are in, I get it. You don't do it. But, I mean, you're a professional kicker. I would think, and I have absolutely no knowledge or education behind this, but I'm just going to make a baseless prediction. I would think it wouldn't matter. I get it's cold, the laces are in, but it's 27 yards. Like, that shouldn't matter to me as a professional kicker. Again, I have no idea what I'm talking about, but that's what I think.
You would think it wouldn't matter, especially... I mean, I don't know. You're that close. It's shorter than an extra point at this point. You know what I mean? But he boomed it. It's almost like, like an adrenaline kind of thing, maybe. He boomed the hell out of it. And it was just, it wasn't even close. And I think everybody had the same reaction in a second, just falling on the floor. I don't care who won the game. I'm like, oh my God, he missed it.
Yeah, my wife, who's somewhat new to football, actually, we're just watching it, and he missed it, and she was just in shock, as if she were a Viking fan for the last 25 years. It was difficult to watch, and I guess there were some people in the stands, I think Deadspin showed it, that had, that just assumed that he made it after he kicked it, and they slowly had to realize that he had just missed it, because they took a video of themselves, because everyone wants to see videos of other people cheering for teams in like the cheap seats, because that's definitely the way I want to get my analysis from the game. But apparently they thought he had made it, and it was very, very uncomfortable watching. But Seattle really didn't do anything that impressed me. I feel I want to say they got lucky again. I know that's ridiculous to say to a team that's been to the Super Bowl twice and is only a few games away from going for a third consecutive time. But I mean, they got lucky yesterday. Let's be honest.
Yeah, they did. I mean, listen, Russell Wilson's playing. He did. It was kind of like he woke up or he warmed up, however you want to say it.
Ooh, I like
but yeah. I've been thinking about that. Yeah, I mean, it like I said, there wasn't a ton going on. It's just Adrian Peterson fumbled. He said I'm looking on ESPN. He has to work on that, Neil. I guess that's going to be his thing. But
all right.
Yeah,
he's going to work on that. Good. They want to start, Adrian. You're 30 years old, so.
You only got 2 years left in age.
Yeah, Jesus. Oh, boy. But, yeah, they win. Seattle wins 10-9. Like you said, there's really not a ton to say about this game. So little happened. Lots of broken third downs that just didn't really go anywhere. It was a field goal bonanza for the most part. So Seattle lives to move, and they move on. And then the last game on Sunday, we had Green Bay, Washington. Now, this was a game that I had Washington winning. I think they were underdogs by 1 point. I just had no faith in Green Bay whatsoever. They were the ugliest looking 10-5 team I'd ever seen. And especially Washington, they jumped out. They got the safety. They were looking good. And then all of a sudden, Green Bay was like, hey, this is the playoffs. Let's move. Let's do this.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the first quarter was ridiculous. It almost was hard to believe that was Rodgers. I started out 1 for 8, like you said, took the safety. But Washington's not that good where it was 17-0 after, you know what I mean? Like they were very much in the game. They started out, Green Bay started out punt, safety, punt, 11 yards after the first quarter. I mean, that's, wow. It's, you almost had one of those feelings where like, gee, what's going on here? But, yeah, they picked it up and before you know it, it was a blowout. And Washington is now done. We could put to bed the NFC East for the year.
Yep. Thank God. I felt bad. I started to, again, this is another, the game, the bookend games, I started to lose interest in once it became a blowout. And I was actually, even looking on Twitter to find a picture of Robert Griffin and Jared Fogle from Subway, just so I could post it on Twitter to, rank on Robert Griffin. And then I thought, why am I doing this? Like, this guy has nothing to do with the game. Right. Why am I dragging him in the mud here? But he did. They made it a big deal at the end of the game that this was most likely his last game, and he actually moved all of his stuff out of the Redskins locker room today, except for one inspirational message he left in his locker. Which I know this has nothing to do with the game, but RG3 is a guy who's very talented, but who's very sensitive, and I think he thinks that the world is out to get him, and he just keeps on keeping on and takes no blame for anything. So he just gave basically a passive-aggressive fuck you to everyone. So good travels. Maybe he'll be the Jets quarterback next year.
I was going to say, where do you think he's going?
Man, that's a great question.
That's another podcast.
Yeah, it really is, though. I don't mean, but yeah, it's a good question. He obviously has had issues, but he can play, and he's still relatively young, so he's going to find a job. Cleveland, maybe?
What about San Francisco? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, it depends what kind of offense. I only thought, basically replacing Kaepernick, but I mean, obviously they have to move on for Kaepernick, and they also got to see what kind of offense Tom Coughlin loves to run out there. So I'm not saying,
but you know what? Washington and San Francisco, very smart with the way they had their contracts set up for RG3 and Kaepernick. They got themselves up, just cut them, and they both saved, I think, $15, $16, $17 million each by getting rid of those, I don't want to say head cases, but borderline head cases, I guess. I think both of them are very in love with each other. Not in love with each other. That is not breaking news. They're in love with themselves, not in love with each other.
Right.
But
meanwhile, taking a step back on Washington, Kirk Cousins, he was on a ridiculous run. I mean, he didn't have a bad game yesterday. He went 29 of 46, 329, 1 touchdown, no picks. But to end out the regular season, it was, I think it was Simmons' podcast the other day, it was 33 touchdowns, 6 picks or some ridiculous ratio. It was outrageous this year. But I mean, he's their franchise quarterback, I guess now, right?
I think he's a free agent though, but I think they got to do something. Can they franchise? I'm always confused on how the franchise tag works.
No, I meant like literally.
Oh, literally.
Face in the bridge. I don't.
But no, you're right. I mean, he really put it together, and that team put it together down the stretch. I mean, they ended the year 9-8, but I mean,
11 touchdown passes in the final 3 weeks.
I mean, that's wow.
He came out of
he
came out of nowhere, and I think there's a lot of worse quarterbacks you can do, and than Kirk Cousins. He was certainly, I don't think, was the reason.
Brian Hoyer. Brian Hoyer is one of them.
Brian Hoyer is one of them. Yes. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see where RG3 goes. I have no idea. Dallas? No. I mean, they're going to probably draft a quarterback, maybe.
Manziel's going to be in Dallas.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I forgot. Yeah.
So let's move on to next weekend. We have Kansas City, New England, the first game on Saturday. New England, Julian Edelman has been cleared to play. We talked about what's his name, Macklin's high ankle sprain. He'll probably be able to play. I have no. He's day to day.
Team decision.
He's day to day, but I gotta think. Yeah, that's a good point. I think. It's a playoff game. I'd like to think that these guys will do anything, but who knows? They played last year. Was it last year they played? And the Chiefs blew out the Patriots, and it was almost like the world took notice that the Patriots' run was over, and we put an entire truck full of dirt on them and said it is over. And people were questioning if Brady was still good. The whole team was done. And they came back. They did all right. So, Kansas City now 11-game winning streak going into New England. What do you think? What do you think about the? Hold on, before I say what do you think? Let's see the point spread. New England -5 in New England.
Yeah. Listen, I don't know. I think Kansas City is a better team, but if I'm going to bet, am I going to bet on Kansas City to go into New England and win? I don't know. I mean, New England feels like they've been banged up forever at this point. Macklin's obviously a big question mark. Do you trust Andy Reid in a big spot? Do you trust Alex Smith in a big spot? I mean, West and Spencer Ware are good. I mean, very good. I had to go into panic mode after I lost Jamal Charles in fantasy earlier this year, so I know them firsthand. We're tight.
You and Sharkandrick, boys.
Yeah. Unfortunately, when I took Sharkandrick, the other guy would get all the touchdowns. So Spencer Ware.
They don't. Son of a bitch.
Yeah, they don't care. It's funny. I just think Kansas City's the better team,